Welcome, and thank you again for joining us. My name is Megan Radovich, and I am the Assistant Executive Director of Programs and Advocacy for Zonta International. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this session of Zonta Talks. We will record this session to allow you to hear it again or to share it with interested people inside and outside of Zonta. Today, we are excited to hear from one of the first recipients of the Zonta International Women in Technology Scholarship. We invite you to join the conversation and are looking forward to your comments and questions. Please use the question box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen to type in any comments or questions you have along the way, and we'll be happy to answer them at the end of the session. Let's get started. It is my pleasure now to introduce Zonta International President, Suzanne van Boswitz.
Shall I mute myself? Hello and a warm welcome to you all from many countries of the world. So that would be good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. So I can tell you, for me today, this talk is a dream coming true. 2 years from now, we were preparing for the convention Yokohama, where the last board of Zonta proposed to the membership the new scholarship, a pilot scholarship, Women in Technology. I'm excited that we are here, as Megan already said, with one of the recipients, and that we are here also with Monica de la Cerda. Monica is from the Zonta Club of Houston. She's the chairman of the Women in Technologies International Committee, and she already prepared the presentation that we made in Yokohama. She already prepared that with me, and Monica, that you are here is fantastic. So after 2 years, I think both we had the dream that came true, and so I will hand over to you with a question, and this question is: we had a biennial goal a few 2 years ago, and we wanted that every district in Zonta participated in this new possibility and made good use of it. So what is it? What were the results? So what is your experience?
Very good. Thank you, President Suzanne. I'm honored to serve as the inaugural chair for the Women in Technology Scholarship. And I recall our time in Yokohama fondly and with great affection. We had 30 districts and including Region South America participate in this pilot program. And the candidates that were presented, the awardees that we were able to select, including who we have with us today, were outstanding, and just the work has been so impressive. I would be remiss not to mention the passionate efforts and work by our ZWIT committee. Marie Cameron from the Zonta Club of Queensland in Australia, Micah Raken from the Zonta Club of Darmstadt in Germany, and Elizabeth van Landegem from the Zonta Club of Brussels in Belgium. Without their work and their efforts and their help, it would not have been realized as just beautifully as it was done, and with the results that we have. So it's just been quite the pleasure. But now I have the privilege of introducing Serena Morlanya. She is a graduate student from Ghana, studying and learning design and technology at Stanford University. She works to make computer science education more accessible to women from various backgrounds across the world. Prior to her master's education, Serena worked as a senior platform manager at TechChange, where she supported a variety of innovative digital learning initiatives at the intersection of education, health, and technology. Serena is also the founder of multiple social change organizations, including Yanara Robotics, a program specifically aimed at providing hands-on technology exposure to young girls in Odobin in the central region of Ghana. Additionally, she's a co-founder of Dislabeled, which provides career and economic opportunities for people with disabilities in Ghana. Serena?
Thank you. Thank you so much, President Suzanne and Monica and the entire Zonta team for the opportunity to share my story with you today. As a recipient of the Women in Technology Scholarship, I am honored to be a part of the session today, specifically the Zonta Talk session. And before I begin, I just want to take the time to acknowledge the celebration of Juneteenth today in the United States. It's the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the US. And this resonates with me today because over the course of my life, Black women have paved the way for me to tell my story. My experiences have shaped my vision for the future of technology and what leadership looks like in that space. I had the opportunity to teach machine learning with other Stanford researchers in Dubai last year. And as part of the program, we had about 72 high school students from across the world. After one of our class sessions, one of our students slowly walked out of the classroom, her body hunched, energy deflated, face dejected. I walked up to her and asked, "What's wrong?" And she could barely look at me as she responded with the question, "Am I stupid?" As a woman who had asked myself that question in my computer science classes in college, I saw myself in her. I quickly rebutted, telling her she was smart and letting her know that if she did not understand, it was a testament of many factors. Curriculum could be designed better, teaching could have been at a slower pace. There were several potential prohibitors, and her being stupid was not one of them. I took the time to walk her through the concepts she didn't understand and related it to examples from her country, from her context, and from what I had learned from her background. And we had sessions consistently, and you can imagine how proud I felt on the last day of the program when I watched her take what she had learned and present her machine learning final project beautifully amongst her peers. This experience particularly reminded me of the need to advocate on the systemic level for computer science educators to learn how to better serve students from various backgrounds who blame themselves when it might be the learning experience at fault. We see exclusion in computer science education when we see examples in textbooks that might not be culturally relevant depending on where the person is from, or content stereotypically tailored to a specific gender or background. And in a system that puts the blame on the learner rather than the learning experience, I learned one of the most important lessons from my students. Leadership that drives the future of technology requires inclusive curriculums and products that explicitly invite people in. This experience also inspired my current master's project today, a web-based learning experience aimed at democratizing the learning of foundational steps of data science for adult learners. Traditional approaches for teaching data science in online learning typically focus on mastering technical tools and programming languages to manipulate data, with little concern to the relevance and context of learners. I identified this gap, and as a graduate student, my master's project focuses on allowing learners, particularly learners with non-technical backgrounds, to grasp the power of data science by helping them to make sense of data through a contextualized learning environment. I care deeply about computer science education and making it more accessible and less intimidating to people. And for me, leadership that drives the future of technology focuses on equity and how existing technology can reach everyone, rather than just the newest, shiniest tool. We as leaders, we need to reimagine and refocus what the future of technology looks like. When people typically think about technology, they tend to focus on emerging technologies, tools like blockchain, artificial intelligence, augmented reality. However, in that focus, we miss out on the importance of existing technologies we have and the dire need to create more equitable systems, equitable technological systems for women, for Black people in America, for people with disabilities. The need for reimagining the future of technology it struck me even further during the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. At my organization, Dislabeled, our team works to promote career and economic opportunities for people with disabilities in Ghana. And during the shelter in place, we led the implementation of the Learn from Home program, where we had special educators who wanted to deepen their knowledge and skills in disability inclusion and autism awareness. We supported 10 special educators from Ghana and connected them to learning opportunities that they were able to participate in through a WhatsApp community. And by leveraging a tool that was accessible to all of our partners, we found that we were able to create a community in a way that served the needs of our learners. We need to think about what small actions to facilitate inclusive and equitable experiences, how we can help do that through the small actions that we take. We all have a role to play in defining what the future of leadership in technology looks like. We lead when we choose to make hiring more inclusive in our organizations and in our boardrooms. When we design curriculum that explicitly invites people in from various backgrounds, or when we unapologetically speak up when we see panels that are not representative of diverse voices. I'm so glad that Zonta is doing some of this work and amplifying women's voices worldwide. As always, there's always more work that we can do, but I'm so thankful to my Zonta district in Ghana and Zontians worldwide for supporting the charge of what leadership should look like. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story.
Thank you, Sarinam. So inspiring. I'm just so enamored with the effort and everything that you've done and what you represent. Everything you just said rings so true and so timely. It's something that I know that we have been working very hard as Zontians for 100 years as part of our centennial anniversary to make sure that women have a seat at the table and that we have representation like you into our future. I'm so excited about that. So I'm going to start with some questions, and as part of our process, how did the Women in Technology Scholarship impact your life? What so far has been some impact, and just describe for us some of that for me.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your question, Monica, for your words. I would say the Women in Technology Scholarship gave me an additional means to support my graduate degree at Stanford. And my Stanford experience is something that I have deeply valued. I mentioned earlier in my story about being able to teach machine learning in Dubai with other Stanford researchers. And that was a super memorable moment that impacted a lot of the things I'm thinking about regarding curriculum and equity. And in addition to that, I've been able to expand my network, meet so many people from various backgrounds internationally, and learn about qualitative research, data science, so many different concepts that I've cherished and loved and really valuable. But I do want to also state that the Women in Technology Scholarship, although it did impact my life, it wasn't just about me. It's been something that I know, I'm confident will have a ripple effect in the communities that I am a part of through the work that I'm doing, through the work that I'm being supported to do also through Stanford. And I think it's hard to measure the impact of something that has such a huge ripple effect as well.
Yes, for sure. And I know you told us a little bit about, you know, your background and some of how the details of how you arrived to where we are today. But can you tell us what made you choose to pursue this particular path, like technology, for instance?
Yeah, definitely. I can think of two stories. So one was what kind of led me to take my first introduction to computer science class. I remember I went to Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania, and that's where I had my major as computer science and economic development. And I remember taking an introduction to computer science class in my first semester for different reasons. One, I was curious about computer science in general. My father had been in the computer science field, and my brother as well had pursued a computer engineering major at Washington University in St. Louis. So I remember one of my reasons was I wanted to have deep technical conversations with my brother. But then I stayed because it was impactful, just learning about a problem, creatively thinking about solutions, using code, a tool that I hadn't necessarily leveraged before, was something that kept me there. And I could see the potential and the impact of how I would be able to create and design tools to shape the world. So that's something that sustained my interest. And then I continued I found myself interested in the learning design technology program because I had worked in an online learning company before that, and I had seen the value of educational technology and online learning in shaping global education. And that also inspired me to do that.
Very good. Excellent. You know, I have a brother too, and I don't have any sisters. Well, I didn't until I joined Zonta. Now I have many Zonta sisters. And I spent a lot of time with my dad and had almost all male cousins. And you're right, there was something about how technology wasn't as available for young girls at the time. So I am just so excited that that is changing, that wave is changing, and that we can help to foster those environments and those changes. I know you mentioned some of your projects that you've done. Can you share more about a particular project or a piece of work that you've done that you feel passionate about or proud of, or you can share with us today?
Definitely. I would actually say there are like so many projects that I've been, usually when I start a project, I'm passionate about it from the beginning to the end. So there are so many projects I'm passionate about and proud of. Some that come to mind, I worked with the Stanford Design School, and I was able to conduct qualitative research about experiences of Black students in the program. And that was a project that I was particularly proud of because through that research, I was able to extract insights and also make recommendations that are currently being implemented in the Stanford Design School. So it was great to see the impact that my work had been able to achieve over a short period of time. Additionally, 2 days ago, I had the opportunity to speak as part of our commencement celebration to the Learning Design Technology 2020. And yeah, that was something I was definitely proud of just because I'm part of an amazing cohort of people, and to have the opportunity to be in that space with family, friends who have supported and been a part of my life was very great.
Perfect. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so you know we've talked about competing with our brothers, you know, in the space a little bit. What other challenges have you faced as a woman in technology? Give us some information on that.
Definitely, I would say, yeah. So I mean, as a woman in technology, there have been challenges. As a Black woman in technology, that has also added additional layers. And I would say one of the biggest things is just the assumptions people make about your ability or the things you can bring to the table. I remember when I was in undergrad for one of my CS labs, I had to partner with a teammate, and I remember he had made assumptions about the kind of what I could help contribute to the project. So it was very interesting afterwards to see him look very surprised when I was able to code. It was an adaptive robotics class. So in our presentation,
Excellent. I love it.
assumptions changed real quick. So that was very good. But I think another challenge I would say is just this representation. In a lot of spaces I've been in from, I mean, my cohort, I'm one of two Black women in my group. And similarly, when I was at Swarthmore undergrad in my CS classes, I remember I was also one of two Black women. And so I think we do know that studies show when you see when people, it's easier to envision yourself in a space when you see more people that look like you. And I think representation is still a challenge, and that's why I think it's important for us to think through how we might inclusively create more spaces for people to be able to be at seats and be invited at seats at the table. Well.
Yes, yes. So I know you mentioned briefly COVID-19, right? The pandemic. It has changed the landscape to the degree that, you know, you and I were supposed to meet in Chicago for our convention. And we are now leveraging this technology to do this instead, which I'm excited to spend time with you and have this conversation. I think now more than ever, with the challenges of this pandemic, women need to equally be represented in the future of the decisions and the laws that are created because of this. What do you look forward to in the opportunity with your work and your role and women representing us in technology given the pandemic?
I think that's a great question. I think there are multiple things I'm looking forward to. I have seen how the pandemic has also shifted things to online learning. So currently, a lot of my classes in my last quarter were classes that were held on Zoom, and I've seen opportunities in that. I've also seen a need to reimagine how those opportunities can be inclusive to people from various backgrounds. So that involves thinking about how to ensure like we have infrastructure worldwide in communities so that they can also access technology to be able to be a part of the shift that's currently happening as a result of the pandemic.
Yes.
So from my end and from my work, I mean, a huge part of the things I advocate for is just in the spaces I'm going to be in the tech spaces I currently am in with like my master project, data science, I always think through who is missing from our current design, what voices are not being heard, and how can we be more inclusive of those voices globally.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. All right, one last question, and then we're going to move into our open it up for other questions. But one last question I have for you. What advice would you give a young woman today looking to pursue her passion in a career in technology, given everything we know right now and that's happened?
I would say, looking back, I'd say to young women to expand their definition of what it means to have a career in technology. Because currently we're seeing how technology is permeating every sector, from medicine to education to healthcare to law. And I would say, first of all, expand that definition of what a career in technology looks like. And in addition to that, I would also just remind a young woman who's pursuing her passion in tech that you belong. You belong here. Your voice matters. Your actions matter. And you belong in this space. That's something that I would emphasize over and over again. And it's work that I'm also currently doing to be able to show people that look like me, people all around the world, that it's possible to hold a seat at that table, and also important to make sure that we're leveraging that seat to invite more people into the space as well.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Surinam. I'm excited to have more people that look like you, that think like you, representing us all over the world and leading us into the future. It's vital, it's important, it's necessary, it's timely, it's now. So thank you again for participating in it, for applying for the scholarship, for helping us getting the word, for being part of the first cohort. I look forward to this going into the future, and I look forward to you and what you will do in your future. And I know that it will be with much success. So now I am going to turn it over to Megan for some questions and answers from our audience. Megan?
Thank you, Monica and Sadnam, for this engaging and insightful conversation. As Monica said, at this time, we'll take comments and questions from our audience members. You can use the chat box to enter your comments and questions, and then I will read them aloud for Sadnam, for Monica, and or for President Suzanne if you also have questions for her. So we can get started on that. Sadnam, our first is just a comment from Dunstanet Macaulay, who's a Zonta member from Togo in District 18. And she said they're just so proud of you and they want you to join Zonta. So that's from your District 18 Zontians on this call. So I think you are very representative of all the wonderful things that we look for in a Zonta member. So the next question is, do you have a mentor? And if so, would you be willing to share, who that mentor is and why?
Definitely, that's an amazing question. And I would say I have several mentors. Like I mentioned before, there are multiple Black women who have paved the way for me to be able to share my story. And those also include my grandmother and my mother. My grandmother was someone who I remember from as young as I can remember would always be teaching me about the idea of service above oneself. She was a highly regarded member in her community, and she always worked to make sure that women were supported and were cared for. So that was instilled in me from a very young age. And my mother is an absolute go-getter. If you see my energy, it's like her energy it matches mine, probably even above it. And she's someone who I've learned the gift of entrepreneurship, the gift of pursuing my dreams, the gift of being able to also invest in other people around me. So amongst all the mentors I have, I want to just recognize those two women as well as people who have been a massive, massive influence in my life. And I know my mom is watching now, so this is just a special shout out.
I love it. Thank you. So our next question is from Anne Lee Sternholm from the Zonta Club of London. And she said, great hearing from you, Sadnam. In your view, what initiatives would you consider most important to improve diversity in tech companies? How do we get more girls interested in things like computer science?
I would say that it is, first of all, I appreciate the question. Thank you for sharing. And that, as she mentioned, it is important to make sure there is representation with women in computer science and in the field. I think there are various angles to which to look at this issue from. And one of them, as I mentioned, was thinking through inclusive curriculums. So currently you find that there is a lot of computer science education, but as it's being designed, there's an opportunity to rethink and reimagine who is being represented in the curriculum. What examples are we sharing with students? Are they examples that are allowing students to see themselves in the field? And in terms of the larger tech company, I think there are numbers that currently show the current state of tech worldwide. And also, as someone who's currently living in Silicon Valley, there's an opportunity for people to hire in more inclusive ways. There's an opportunity for people to invite board members, to let diversity not just be something that they say, but something that they act upon. And I think currently there's more opportunity for that to be done in the tech space, for them to actually put their money where their mouth is as well.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from Pamela Parad, and she asked, what do you see yourself doing in 20 years?
20 years. I think I envision myself as, thankfully, someone who's been evolving over time. I see myself as someone who is consistently going to be advocating for CS education to be inclusive. I see myself mentoring other women, mentoring other leaders, and being a support system to people from various backgrounds, but specifically, again, Black women that look like me as well. And yeah, that's something, even 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I would say 60 years from now, hopefully, I would still be helping in that mentorship role, and leading and having my voice heard within the tech space globally.
Great, thank you. Our next question is actually for Monica, or perhaps for President Suzanne. This question is from Christine Tomasetti, and she asks, what do we see for the future of the scholarship, and are there going to be any changes going forward?
I'm happy to mention that I know that there is a plan for there to be something into the future, and that the current board with the incoming board are looking to develop what it looks like next. But there's definitely very strong work being put towards the effort on continuing this.
Thanks, Monica. Seti, back to you. Our next question is from Patty Smith, and she asked, did your program offer internship opportunities in business? And said, thank you for sharing your experiences with us today.
Awesome. Megan, you cut out a little at the end, but what I heard was, did my program offer internship opportunities?
Correct.
Right? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Again, thank you for all the questions. Yes, my program did offer internship opportunities. I was actually able to do an internship every quarter that I was here at Stanford. My first internship involved me working at a maker space on campus. So I was a makery mentor, supporting people to be able to learn how to use technologies like the 3D printer, laser cutter. And it was a humbling and amazing experience, because through that, I was also able to tell the stories of various makers in our School of Education at Stanford. And in addition to that, other internship opportunities, I've worked at the design school. So I've been conducting qualitative research and thinking through ways they can reimagine some of the programs that they've been implementing. My current internship is going to be at Coursera, which is an online learning company, and I'm going to be thinking through how to help people be motivated in online learning, and how to ensure consistency and inclusion as well in that space.
Great. The next question is from Joyce, and she's a member of the Zonta E Club of West Africa. And she just wanted to say, fantastic way for the club to celebrate its 2-year anniversary today, with Sedanam, who I understand you were their nominee. So she said, for adding your voice and empowering young women. So just a comment from the Zonta E Club of West Africa.
Thank you so much. I just want to mention how I appreciate the Zonta E Club of West Africa so much. Joyce, Miss Joyce Chidite was someone who is also a mentor to me. So I do appreciate the opportunity to have been nominated and to represent the club in this space as well.
Great. So we had a question, or more of a comment, from Lola Steinbeck, and she said she'd like to see the creation of a mentoring program to encourage more women in technical fields. Do you know about programs like that? Are there programs in existence like that?
Yes, I actually launched a program called Yanara Robotics. So what that was in the village that my grandmother grew up in. I had the opportunity to work with about 20 girls to help connect them to just hands-on STEM in a way that was fun. And through that, I was able to work with other people and collaborate with other women who are able to share their skills with those women. So that's an example of a mentor. I mean, that's biased, but that's an example of a mentorship program that I have seen, that I want to expand, that I want to scale, and I want to keep growing so that multiple people can be mentored and supported throughout the world.
That's a great example.
Yeah, Sedanam, I was going to mention to you, so, you know, a lot of people talk about organizations giving women the opportunity to lead and be CTOs and CIOs and to be part of the conversation, but you've really done something outstanding by starting your own organizations, which I think is you know, again, just an approach that really turns everything around and makes such a difference. What kind of tips, or what can you share to people who are looking to launch their own companies, organizations, and how they can get started?
Definitely. And I would say, first of all, launching an organization is not necessarily is not a solo act. It's it's as a result of support systems, family, friends who've also inspired me. My best friend Natalie started her own company, and that was also very inspirational to me. In terms of tips, I would just say, yeah, first of all, thinking through that support was something that was very valuable to me, and leveraging that support to also find people that could connect you to resources. And that's the thing about entrepreneurship I want to highlight currently. I think not a lot of opportunities for funding, even in the Silicon Valley currently. We do see that there is a disproportionate amount of VC funding given to white males versus women who have equally viable, or even more, dare I say, more viable business opportunities. So I think on a systemic level, things that need to be addressed there is how can funding be made available to people who need that, and network as well, is what I would say on that.
Great. So our next question is from Maria Calibo Sales, and she said, "You are a phenomenal role model for women in technology, Sedanam. One of the challenges in democratizing technology for women around the world is access to devices, stable internet, time to learn, and quality of learning. Also that many tech courses are delivered mostly in English. How do we bridge this divide? How can Zonta assist with this?"
Definitely. So there is basically in the question that our fellow Zantrian mentioned, there is an element of the current infrastructure problems we have. So access to internet, access to Wi-Fi. I will mention, and also even access in terms of language. I will mention that prior to my master's, I was working at TechChange, which was an online learning company. And I had the opportunity to work with the World Bank on what we called Open Cities Africa, which was teaching 10 cities in Africa about mapping technology. And we did have a situation where we had bilingual learners, learners who were English learners and also French learners. And I think a huge piece of inclusion is also thinking through that space, like language, how to make sure you're crossing barriers across the globe to make sure you're inviting and explicitly calling people in. To that question, I would say there is opportunity there. I think investments in infrastructure and also just leadership that's also leveraging that infrastructure to support their communities is one key thing that Zonta might look out for as well in there.
Great, thank you. Monica, our next question is for you. Bonnie MacArthur asked if you could just briefly remind the audience of what the basic criteria was for the Women in Technology Scholarship.
So, very good question. Thank you. I appreciate that. So the basic criteria was for those individuals that were pursuing a degree for information systems and or computer science, basically a tech degree. There was an element to this particular pilot program that was very innovative and new, and it was that there could be someone that could apply for the scholarship that wasn't necessarily in a traditional university or academic institute, and they can show some of the work that they've done. So potentially developing an app that helps and or empowers women, for instance, provides some type of advocacy for them, and or other tech type related innovation. So it did have some novel points to it, and more information about that can also be found on our zonta.org website.
Thanks, Monica. Seti, we have another question for you. If there was a Nobel Prize in computer science what would you hope to get the prize for?
That is an amazing question. I would say, I mean, first of all, recognition is nice and important, and it is valuable. But at the same time, a lot of the things I do are not. It's more about the impact on the community and who's being served, how we serve the needs of the community that we're working with. And that being said, it would probably be for equity and inclusion. I would say it would be an award that is recognizing someone who has created and made the space for other people to also create and make spaces and have that ripple effect in the Black community. I would say that would be an absolute honor if it was someone who was being awarded for equity and inclusion in the space.
Fantastic, thank you. Our next contribution is just a comment. It's from Mary Quinn from the Zonta Club of Houston, and she just wanted to say congratulations, Sadanam, and she wanted to express her gratitude for this excellent hour. So just thank you for spending the time with us today.
Thank you.
We have another comment from a Zonchan, Charlene Thomas, who said, in 20 years, you could be on the ballot to be president of Zonta International. So I think they're really pushing you here on the membership asks.
I agree.
I agree too. I think that is all of our questions from the audience right now. I'm just going to give people another minute in case they want to add anything. But that's all I see at the moment. Monica, did you have any other questions that came up as you were listening to the questions from the audience?
Yes, I did. I did have one more question for Sadanam that actually just came into me directly too. Sadanam, if there was an app right now that you would want to see developed, whether you developed it yourself or had a group to do, what would this new app do?
Well, I would say currently I would pitch my master's project because currently I am actually developing a web-based learning experience. And what that experience is doing is it's breaking down technical concepts in data science into more conceptual concepts that people from various backgrounds can have access to. So that's currently we're able to get a little bit of funding from Stanford to start that, and it's still in development currently. So that's something that I envision helping to also shape the face of the next data science leaders, the next machine learning leaders, the next artificial intelligence leaders, and helping to break that barrier through a learning experience such as what I'm looking at and trying to develop now is something that I wholeheartedly believe in.
Perfect, brilliant. Thank you.
Great. We did have a couple more questions come in, so I'm just going to go back to a few from the audience. We had a question from Meena Singh, and she said, what's next for you on your journey, Sadanam?
Thank you so much for the question. As I mentioned, over the summer, I am going to be working at Coursera, looking at data science education in more detail. And in addition to that, some of my Stanford friends and I, we are looking into starting a venture. So we're looking to do what it's called as the Stanford School of Business. It's called Lean Launchpad. So it gives you the opportunity to learn more about creating a business, various funding opportunities that might be available within the Stanford community. And we're thinking through how we might launch our own venture. So that's currently what I'm looking at.
Great. Our next comment is from Tracy Loftness, and she just said, congratulations from the Zonta E-Club of Silicon Valley. We wish you all the best in your program at Stanford and hope to meet you in person sometime in the not too distant future. So you have Zonchans all over the world who are eager to to meet you as well. And then I think we had one more. Maria asked if Zonta members of all ages could be part of your pilot group to learn data science.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Zonta women of all ages. We're actually currently in the phase where we're doing user tests to see how people interact. So I mean, I'll share my contact with you. So if there's anybody that's interested in learning more, they can definitely reach out.
Fantastic. So I think that's just lots more messages of congratulations and thank you from Zonta members from North America, Europe, Africa. We even had some members from Australia who were up very either middle of the night or I don't know, very early morning for them to hear from you today. So I really appreciate it. So before we conclude for today, I'd like to welcome back President Suzanne for any closing remarks that she would like to make.
Thanks, Megan. Thank you, Selinam. Thank you, Monica. But before we conclude this session, I have a question for you, Selinam. So that might seem very strange, but I'm hearing a lot about artificial intelligence and how this could, I mean, it exists today and how it could even more affect our lives. So are you afraid of a too rapid development of artificial intelligence, or do you fully embrace it already?
I think, like with every technology, there is you find that there is hidden biases in how people design technology. So with artificial intelligence specifically, something that I explore myself and something that I learning about is ways that it can be more inclusive in the spaces that it's implemented in. So with artificial intelligence, I would say I do see opportunities. I also think it's a tool, like with everything else, has its own hidden values, and those are the areas that I'm looking to address to make sure that it's an emerging technology that has equitable impact on the people that use it.
If I might add to that, Selinam, I not only completely agree with you, but I think that's why it's so important to have women at the seat of the table of those types of conversations to make sure that the direction and the representation of that technology is done with us in mind. So, I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, there's parts of it that are scary, but that it's very necessary and it will help us to lead the future. So.
You're so right, Monica. I mean, that's exactly it, because we are the ones who can do something and could impact it. And maybe not so much me, but more Selinam, so, and your colleagues. That is clear. What I loved in this talk, and we heard it, I think, 3 or 4 times during this talk, was the word ripple effect. And I tell you, this is exactly what we want not only our WIT pilot scholarship, but also the other scholarships do. So we want to encourage, of course, young women because of themselves, because of who you are and what you are becoming. But also, it is because we trust that with your capabilities, the world will be a little better. And this sounds very idealistic, but that is Zonta. So we are all here, and all our energy and our efforts go into that, so that we believe on our way to gender equality, and of course to fighting all discriminations that we see in the world. This would be a lot better. So we want to further strengthen your voice, and you heard it. I can only echo my Zonta friends in the world. So you not only have friends here in Ghana, so with the scholarship you have friends in the entire Zonta world, and certainly a supporter from the great committee. And I wanted to thank once again this committee, Monica and your colleagues. I know with the pilot, with things where we still experiment a little bit, this was a big challenge, and thank you to all of you. And again, congrats, Sedinam. And of course, we wish you very, very well. And we will watch and love to be in contact and see what new projects come, and if there is already a possibility to join into some of your developments, that will be fantastic. So thank you very, very much. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Kate, I think, who was with us. Thank you, Monica. And I wish you all a wonderful weekend and hope to hear you soon again.
Thank you, Suzanne. Megan, you might be on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. You will find a recording of today's session on our website later this afternoon. And we hope you will join us on our next Zonta Talk on Wednesday, June 24th, when we will present the Zonta Meritorious Service Award to 2 distinguished Zontians. In the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of the day and enjoy your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Seti. Thank you, Megan. Bye.